A brand new report has linked the Boston Bruins to a very interesting forward who is absolutely shining in the KHL. We're going to be breaking it down and why the signing may not be as good as people think. We're also going to be talking about James Hagens in this year's draft, as multiple recent reports are saying that he is going to be dropping to the Boston Bruins. We got to break all of this down here in this video. Now, very quickly before we jump into it, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. As I've been mentioning in the past few videos, we have so much Bruins news already starting to come out even before the playoffs are over, and we're getting ahead of it. You won't want to miss it. We have it right here, so be sure to hit the sub button. We know it's just over 70% of you guys watching right now are not done. So, but without any further ado, let's jump straight into this here, starting off with Maxime Comtois. The reports are Boston Bruins are linked to him from the KHL. I want to pull up this article here going over, as SC has learned, Dynamo forward Maxime Comtois, whose contract with the Moscow club expires on May 31st, may return to North America and become a Boston player. The Bruins are leading the contenders for forwards among NHL clubs. Now, this comes from a Sports Express, a Russian website. This is translated to English, but multiple reports are coming out from the Russian media, from the Moscow team, that he is going to be heading back to the NHL and trying to make an NHL comeback this season, or this offseason, I should say, for next season. Now, Maxime Comtois is a very interesting player because when we break down where he's been, how his NHL career has gone, he exactly hasn't been the best player for that front. Now, when it comes down to it, though, and looking at Maxime Comtois' stats here, not just over this season, but over the past few seasons, you saw what could have been back there in the QMJHL with Drummondville there, 48 points in 25 games. Going down to the San Diego Gulls, 24 points in 31 games, but never really managed to make that happen in the NHL. Go back to the Chicago Wolves there, you see 44 points in 65 games. But then Moscow Dynamo this year, 50 points in 52 games. The playoffs, 13 points in 15 games. And he's become a very, very physical player. Now, he always was, but we really saw that so far now throughout this season in the KHL. And he's become a player that certainly will show that he can make an NHL comeback. And there's a lot of people doubting him. You know, he's been doubted his entire career throughout his NHL career. But now seeing this kind of resurgence from the KHL, it makes sense that there will be teams interested. Now, the Detroit Red Wings have reportedly offered him a contract. You know, that is something that we have to keep in mind here. But I don't know if that was declined. I don't know if that was just kind of waived or whatnot. But reports are saying the Boston Bruins will be in on him, and when you're looking at the comparison to where he stands compared to some of these other players the Bruins currently have, it does make a little bit of sense now when it comes down to it. Not the most amount, but I'm very much liking the idea of this, even though there's a lot of people doubting why this signing could be not the greatest for the Boston Bruins. And when it comes down to it here, looking at Maxime Comtois, I want to put this up here. This comes from Bench Rates and kind of puts the metrics into perspective. And keep this in mind. I know it's very small, but you pause this, have a look at it, kind of keep your mind on what's happening here before we jump into the Bruins comparison that people are kind of comparing him to, and why this may not be the best signing for him. But when you're looking at a lot of green, which is obviously good, but when you're looking at kind of the way he played in the KHL, putting it into his a top-tier player and a stable trend up there by his name there, and comparing that now to what we're seeing in John Beechers, who has the tier of replaceable, going down to a decreased trending, or a medium decrease, it really puts in perspective that there are similarities here, maybe comparing them to John Beecher, but it's showing a lot more positivity coming out. And John Beecher, of course, didn't really fit into this team this year. Fourth line started off the season very, very well. We can't forget how good that line of John Beecher, Mark Kastelic was. And, of course, that, certainly going to be up for a debate of what's going to happen next year with John Beecher with this fourth line. But there certainly is options for Maxime Comtois. One big reason why I think he's going to be a much better player, or would be a much better player for this Boston Bruins team, is his size. And when we kind of go back here, when you look at him, 6'3", 222, he is a absolute unit when it comes on the ice. He had 99 penalty minutes here in the KHL, and in the AHL last year, 109. He likes to use his size. He don't mind getting in the rough areas, and that's something the Bruins don't really have on this team right now on the forward side of things. And, I do like the idea of Maxime Comtois, and I want to know what you guys think, because as that kind of comparison went down here between Maxime Comtois and John Beecher, people are saying that, it's just another John Beecher, but I think he brings a lot more to this Bruins team than what John Beecher would, even though he's a very good face-off guy, and, he's an RFA. That's where things kind of come into play here. And as we go and look at the RFAs, him, Jacob Lauko, Marat Huznatinov, Cole Koepke, and Morgan Geekie. And I think there's a lot of questions being raised apart from Morgan Geekie, Marat Huznatinov, and maybe even Jacob Lauko about what Cole Koepke and John Beecher's future holds. So maybe give it a guy like Maxime Comtois a chance. But when it comes down to it as well, we're going to be adding more names here in this year's draft. And one name that I've been talking about a lot here, I'm very high on, is going to be James Hagens. And reports are now saying that he is dropping over the next few months and over these past few months further and further down the board. And when it comes down to it, I want to pull up right here this article from TSN's Craig Button. He went as far as putting James Hagens as the number 8 prospect in the upcoming draft. The forwards, like lower ceilings, like Brady Martin, who was projected around number 6 on his board, or injury concerns with Roger McQueen, number 5 on his board, slotted ahead of James Hagens. Now, both of these guys, Brady Martin, Roger McQueen, around the area of an 8 to 12 in between that in this year's draft. And we know the Bruins had 5, moved down to 7 in the draft lottery when Utah and New York moved ahead of us. But when it comes down to looking at where the Bruins currently stand, you see Jake O'Brien there. You see Caleb Denoyer ahead of him, Anton Frondell, James Hagens. The set of 4 centers ahead of the Boston Bruins, or including the Boston Bruins pick. And we know the Bruins are looking for a center. Now, if we do see James Hagens continue to drop on this list, and if Craig Button, is correct, he's TSN's draft analyst now, doesn't have the most popular ideas and opinions among the NHL analysts, but when it comes down to it, if he's putting McQueen and Brady Martin ahead of James Hagens in this case, we look at Anton Frondell moving up. We look at Caleb Denoyer moving up. We look at maybe Jake O'Brien moving up. You put both of them up there as well. James Hagens easily drops down to 7 and even beyond. So this gives the Bruins a phenomenal look at what is ahead for, of course, here, in this case, James Hagens for their draft at number 7 overall. Now, we know as well, playing local to Boston, the Bruins love that. They love players from Boston University, Boston College, and, the other schools around the area. They love players like that. And James Hagens also said how much he loves Boston. This is what he had to say when the idea of staying in Boston. He said, I love Boston. Hagens said on Tuesday, being at Boston College, we're right in the middle of Boston there. So it's a beautiful city. Only great things to say about it. I love it here. And of course, he would definitely love to stay in Boston, of course. You would have to assume playing in Boston College, loving the city, staying in Boston, makes life a lot easier for him. But of course, things can change. Things can definitely change around that area, especially in your draft and when it comes down to. But a lot of reports, and if we're kind of putting this out there, for putting the idea that Craig Button's saying number 8 on his list compared to Brady Martin, compared to Roger McQueen, and of course, you're going to see many of these other centers, Michael Misa, Anton Frondell, Caleb Denoyer, Jake O'Brien, likely ahead of Hagens in this case. This gives the Bruins a phenomenal opportunity to go out here, get a guy that you would have likely even tried to go and get at 5. The Anton Frondell comparison to Barkov is definitely one that a lot of teams would like to have, the Bruins in specific as well. But if James Hagens is a player that drops, he's definitely one you have to go after. So I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. First of all, about Maxime Comtois. Do you think he's going to fit? There's a lot of options here, a lot of moving parts that would be able to work out here. Wouldn't be expensive, would fit really well into this lineup. Of course, though, that comparison to John Beecher is not what Bruins fans want to hear. But when it comes down to it, let me know what you think about James Hagens as well. I think this is the most interesting draft bit of information we've had in quite some time, and maybe gives the Bruins a golden opportunity to go out here and get James Hagens. So let me know what you think about all that stuff here in the comments below. That's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out, though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.